Hello and welcome to Zak's Traders Cafe. Today I'm joined by Dominic John, who's a COO at CCS, which I was involved in a bit of deal making last week with Hydrogen Utopia, which took, I think, 49%, had an option on 49% stake in the company. And we sort of thought that it might be a good idea to speak to Dominic about exactly what Hydrogen Utopia is involved in. Over to you, Dominic.
Morning, Zach. Thank you for having me.
So,
Just a sort of a clarification on your intro. We actually changed the company name a couple of days ago this week. So we are now known as Ohrid Organics, so named for the historical and ancient lake and town which we're located close to.
right. So there's a big move, I suppose, in terms of waste plastic to hydrogen to medical cannabis. So maybe you can explain a little bit about what you're doing there out in the field.
Sure. So Ohrid Organics, as we're now known, is a UK-based medical cannabis company. We're focused on bringing competitively priced product to market through low-cost cultivation. Our facility, Kingfield, is located in Ohrid, North Macedonia, which we acquired recently. But we've actually been involved in the project for about 4 years now, since taking a minority stake back in 2019. So the primary goal of Kingfield is to produce competitively priced, high quality, GMP compliant dry flower. So the actual facility, Kingfield itself, is a 27,000 square meter site. It's GACP certified. And we also have a processing facility, which is EU GMP compliant, but not yet certified. Kingfield was the first facility in Macedonia to be awarded GACP certification back in April 2020. We've been recertified yearly since, demonstrating a strong culture of compliance. The license permits cultivation space of about 20,000 square meters across 37 greenhouses. The greenhouses are hybrid, so they're capable of growing under sun and supplemental LED light conditions, and also have controlled environments. Currently, we have 4 operational greenhouses, each with just under 350 square meters of canopy space. The greenhouses have the capacity to produce approximately 1 ton of dry flower a year. We are currently undergoing a genetic selection and breeding program, which we're hoping will increase our production yields. But for now, approximately 1 ton a year per greenhouse is what's possible. The facility was designed with scalability in mind. As you'll see from some of the images I'll show you, the greenhouses are essentially modular and can be rolled out along the site, up to 37 greenhouses in total. We already have groundwork and electrical infrastructure in place for additional 6 greenhouses, so we could go up to 10 in a fairly short order of time should the market require that level of output. We've been cultivating CBD and THC dominant strains since late 2019, early 2020. We were granted API certification in April 2022, which permits the export of dry flower from North Macedonia into other regions which accept medical cannabis. All of our post-harvest protocols are carried out under GMP compliant processes. We expect to receive local GMP accreditation by the end of Q3 this year. And that will then kickstart our EU GMP application, and we expect to receive that sometime in Q1 2024. So I mean, that's a general overview of what the site is kind of doing now. In terms of other certification, we expect to receive Control Union, which will allow us to export into the Israeli markets. That's expected to be received at some point during July. Israel obviously being a significant market for us, consuming as much medical cannabis as the rest of Europe combined, at approximately 50 tons a year, of which more than 50% is imported. So that's what the Kingfield facility sounds like, and I'm going to run you through some images of what's actually going on at Kingfield at the moment. So as you can see from this first shot, what you have is the 4 greenhouses, a large post-harvest processing area down in the bottom right-hand side of the image, and a number of units which are office space and security on the other side on the left. So this is the inside of one of our greenhouses. As you can see at the moment, the shading is down on both the walls and the ceiling. We have the capacity to grow purely under LED lights, where sun not an option. But in Ohrid, we're fortunate enough to benefit from about 260 days of sunlight a year, which means that generally we're able to grow under sun conditions with minimal additional light input. This is one of the key things that obviously helps us to keep our costs down. You can't produce medical cannabis in Europe for as cheap anywhere else other than in Macedonia. Our production costs are around 30 cents a gram, and we believe that with the economies of scale and the improvements in yield that we'll see from the genetics program, this could be driven down to sub 20 cents at some point. So the greenhouses are run very efficiently. The environment is managed through a system of pad and fans. This is a very efficient way of keeping the environment at the suitable temperature without considerable OPEX. Here you can see the greenhouse being prepared. As I say, we are growing from clone material currently. The cloning room will generate the clones. This is a greenhouse that's been prepared, ready for clones to be transferred across. Here you can see them in the initial state of vegetation. Typically, plants will remain in a state of vegetation state for about 4 weeks. They'll then be moved across into a flowering phase, which will run for about 8 weeks before we get to harvest. Here you can see as we go through the vegetation stage, the plants get larger and bushier, and then eventually they will be switched across into a flowering stage. As you can see, the quality of the product that's being grown there, for the average layperson, if you don't know, this is a relatively healthy looking plant, showing good levels of trichomes and good health generally. Once it gets to the harvest stage, the plants are then trimmed within the, for this particular photo shoot, plants were being trimmed in a warehouse. We've now moved to dry trimming process post drying. But at this time they were hand trimming in the greenhouses, and then the product gets transferred across and through. And at this point, you can see where GACP meets a GMP culture. So this is where the greenhouse ends and the post-harvest processing facility begins. You essentially have an area of overlap where GACP meets GMP, and you have to harmonize the SOPs that fall within that kind of sector to ensure that it meets the regulations, both the GACP and GMP criteria. This is one of the drying rooms. As I say, we then moved on to a new apologies. So this is the drying room, drying with cabinets. We are in the process of upgrading this, so it will be an integrated drying room. So rather than drying in standalone cabinets, the plant matter will be held in racks along the walls with an HVAC system that will maintain the temperature across the room. This essentially removes one of the key bottlenecks for us in the harvest process, which will mean that as we start to scale up, we won't have those issues in terms of throughput once we harvest. As you can see, after this, we also have the capacity for sorting of product. Some clients may require buds of certain sizes, and this step in the process just gives us the ability to ensure that we're giving the client what they're asking for. Once the product is ready for packaging, it will then be packaged and sealed. And from then it will be weighed to make sure it's all in accordance with specifications. Once that's all been checked and verified, the product is then moved to a warehouse, and it will then be eventually placed into secondary packaging for eventual export or sale. So essentially, that's what we're doing at Kingfield at the moment. We have a number of... Bear with me a moment. We have a number of work projects that we're currently underway ahead of our first commercial crop of THC dominant strains in November. We're recruiting sales force both in Israel and in Macedonia. The Israeli salesperson will be predominantly focused on the local market. The Macedonian will be focused on the European market as a whole, and we'll be traveling across to the various conferences, expos, in order to make sure that we're able to gain that traction as we head towards November.
So basically, this business is a very advanced one. It's already up and running. There's all the dirty work's been done. Most of the regulation has been done, and the badges and all the other things that you need. So it's really ready to ramp up production, isn't it?
Correct. So we've already seen some early revenue in the form of CBD product sales, but obviously that's not our end game. The end game is THC dominant medical cannabis. So the CBD that we were growing was part of the validation and certification process. As I say, we have GACP, we have API certification, and we're about to receive Israel Control Union certification. So yeah, you're right in saying that a lot of the heavy lifting has been done already, and we're now at that stage where we're ready to start generating significant revenues.
And are you sort of ahead of the pack, or are there just a few other players, or you're just, and how do you fit into the space at the moment? Because I presume there would be a little bit of a gold rush in this space now.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, so in Macedonia, there are a number of licenses. Only a handful are actively cultivating at the moment. Several of the ones that we know of are fully indoor, so that comes with significant capex and significantly higher OPEX than what we have at Kingfield. Obviously, the energy costs are significantly higher. At Kingfield, as I say, we're growing under hybrid greenhouse conditions, so supplemental LED along with sunlight. Also, the fact that we're growing in Macedonia, I mean, if you look just across the border into Greece, the minimum wage there is about 750 euros a month. In Macedonia, it's closer to 350 euros a month. The tax rate in Macedonia is a flat 10% structure. Not to pick on Greece, but again, in Greece, for example, it's north of 20%. So there are a lot of advantages to growing in Macedonia, cost being one of them, and the fact that they have a fairly progressive political kind of system out there. So it's quite easy to get things done if you're trying to do something that's a positive outcome for the country as a whole and for the business.
And there were some projections touted around for next year and the year after. How confident are you in those projections in terms of profitability, etc.?
So we're projecting EBITDA for 2024 of close to 6 million and around 10 million for 2025. Now, obviously, those are challenging numbers, but we feel that they're achievable. The genetic selection and breeding program that we're working on at the moment will be yielding good results. And as I say, if we can push those production values to north of 1 ton per greenhouse, and I think we have every chance of hitting those numbers. As I say, the low production cost gives us that ability to be flexible on pricing. What we don't want to do is get into a price war. That's in certainly not in anyone's commercial interests. But the reality is we're able to be nimble on our pricing because of where we're located.
Okay, well, on that note, obviously, we're all looking forward to free samples to make sure that everything is of proper quality. But in the meantime, Dominic John, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks a lot, Zach. Take care.